This is a profit and loss for the ES Runner and Euro Runner trading systems for July the 24th, 2012, starting with the pre-market. All profits taken from 3:15, 15 minutes after the cash market opens, through 9:30 in the morning, and then regular trading hour profits are taken from 9:45, 15 minutes after the market opens, unless an ideal setup occurs on a open trade between 9:30 and 9:45. Otherwise, trades are taken between 9:45 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. For pre-market, going from 3 o'clock on, we had no trades to take except for a sprint trade that came in here. The sprint trade from entry at, let me make sure I'm also going against news this morning, make sure I have the proper things for news to make sure we don't have trades against news. This morning we had a 3:30 and a 4 o'clock and a 4:30 news event. So we had a lot of news between 3, 3:30, and 4. So this scalp here at, or the sprint here, excuse me, at 350 wasn't a valid sprint to take. It did make the 6 ticks of profit, or got close to 8 ticks of profit, got to 7. But there was news at 4 o'clock, not sufficient time to make profit, therefore not recommended to take this trade. A twin trade setup where it had twin arrows forming, strong twins. That trade from open price here went against it by about 4 ticks and went up and made 8 ticks. The stop loss on a twin trade, it's a new trade that we're using in the room. It'll be a 6 tick stop loss and an 8 tick take profit on a strong twin. The same for a medium. As for weak twins, twins which have the color of yellow, we're going to stay away from those. This trade here had a medium twin formation right here. Entry would have been on this candle here. It went down and made 8 ticks of profit as well. This sprint trade was a trade that occurred once you went beyond the oversold condition. So I'm trying to make sure that traders understand that sprints and scalps are trades that are best taken when you're not in extreme areas. The trade here, if it lost and it was entered by anybody in the room, lost 6 ticks. So the profit this morning would have been anywhere from 10 to 16 ticks made this morning pre-market based on whether that sprint was traded. But being so oversold, I think a lot of traders didn't take this sprint. We had a very choppy pre-market morning, but nevertheless there was profit. We've had some choppy mornings in July, and this is good to see. It's good to see a profitable morning on the pre-market. We've had some mornings that haven't done so hot. And then we'll go to the 9:30 open, go to the 2 o'clock candles. And we're going to go through all the trades here, and we're going to talk about the ones which I talked traders out of. At 9:30, we had a short. Actually, not 9:40, 9:30, 9:40 in the morning, we had a short. This is a trade which normally wouldn't take profits on a trade between 9:30 and 9:45 unless the right ideal situation occurs. An ideal situation is when you have several consecutive candles in a row from open that all go in one direction and you have it proven on the SSI line. This couldn't be a better open. It's not an open where prices drop and then shoot up and then drop and then shoot up, where things are all over the place. It's a nice smooth open. A lot of sellers came in and continue to come in. So around 9:40, 9:45, we reevaluate what's happened in the first 10 minutes. If it's been a smooth open, we take a trade. If it's been a rocky open, we don't take anything earlier than 9:45. Sometimes we don't take things until 10 o'clock based on how choppy it's been in the market's first 10 to 20 minutes. But this again was a good trade, and some traders got in the trade, others did not. Bernanke was talking today when was Bernanke talking today again? Bernanke was talking today at 8:45. So with Bernanke talking at 8:45, there were several traders that decided to stay out of this trade, but some did take it. My recommendation for when people talk like Bernanke and Draghi, it's the first 30 minutes. Stay out of trades the first 30 minutes for sure, and then evaluate what happens with price action. Evaluate whether or not the market's going up and down. Are they choppy? As you can see, the market went long when he started talking at 8:45. They went long. They turned around, the market opened, and they went short. Now, they were going against a short that was already created on the long side from Bernanke talking, so this was more of a reason to be cautious. That's why a cautionary trade printed here, because the previous trade had moved over 5 points. And this is a trade which was to be taken with one contract for those that have smaller accounts. Otherwise, half the contract size for those with bigger accounts. If you normally take 10 contracts in a trade, take 5. If you take 4 contracts on a primary entry, on a cautionary primary entry, take 2. So for this trade this morning, this was an opportunity for people to actually get a runner on this trade. could have been a trade that people got a runner on, because of course people that have 4 contracts would take two off of the first 8 ticks and let the other 2 contracts run. This was a trade which those that have bigger contract sizes would have made probably about 5 or 6 points on. But because I'm counting things based on the smallest account size with 1 contract, it's a 1 contract trade. Otherwise, here we have this was a scalp that came in that was a successful scalp and made money. I called the room off of it because we were hitting a trend line. We had bounced one time on the trend line right here, and the second time we went under the trend line by a little bit, and after a couple of candles it just didn't look promising. Prices were coming up. There was an arrow on the SSI forming. I decided it's probably better to cut it. I cut the trade right here, and of course the next 2 bars it dropped down and made its profit. This was a successful trade, but I called the room off of this. The next scalp here was an intra-series scalp. That's why it's printed in white, not blue. Blue are the primary scalps to take. Whites are the intra-series scalps. It did fit the rule of intra-series, which is 3 dots before it. And I called the room off of this trade because we were going into an area of hitting the daily lows, the Globex daily lows, and I thought we might get a lot of buyers coming in, which they did come in right down here. So I quite frankly can't remember why I called off the room from this trade, but I did. Nevertheless, it made money as well. It made its 2 points. So those were 2 trades called off. This trade I thought we were okay on because we got past the daily lows. It bounced up here, and I called an entry here, and it went smack on our face. We lost 8 ticks. This primary entry on a cautionary trade with 1 contract, unfortunately, it was nothing more than a mild retracement of a larger movement down. This trade was taken, and it lost on the... I called out the exit of this trade at 10 ticks once we had the second, or actually no, it got stopped out at 10. I didn't call it off, it got stopped out at 10. This trade lost 10 ticks. This trade here on the short side as a primary entry, this is a trade that I told the room to use a little more caution. It was still a good trade, but I told those with bigger contracts, if you've got 10 contracts, trade 5. If you've got 4 contracts, trade 2. So for the bigger contract traders, they would have taken, I hope, a little bit less in this trade, only because it was we were reaching the daily lows of the day before, and there might be a lot of buyers there. But all in all, I called this trade as a 7 out of a 10, which was a good trade to take, just to use maybe a little bit more caution on it. But it was the resumption of the movement down, which is what I was hoping for. I was expecting this in the afternoon. It happened in the morning. This trade made its 8 ticks on 1 contract here, and for those that took this trade as a normal trade with the second half of their position as a runner, it made 10 ticks of runner right here. At the end of the day here, if we don't count this 10-tick runner, because a lot of traders might have only taken their profit off here, we still have a profitable afternoon. But this is a trade which, when I'm in the room calling a trade to everybody, I tell those with bigger contracts sometimes to put a little bit less of a position on, but I still endorse this trade to take it as a short. It was still a good trade to take. It wasn't a cautionary trade. It was a trade in the direction of the prevailing move for the day, which was short, and therefore it was a good trade to take. 8 ticks of profit were made here. The second half was brought to break even, and that was stopped out of the smart line here for 10 ticks of profit for those who took a runner. And then we had a scalp here, which I called off in the room. Well, I didn't call this trade off in the room. This was during lunchtime. This scalp here was just before lunch. Several traders took this scalp and made 8 ticks, but I'm not counting this scalp here, the primary scalp, because we did not yet make 8 ticks on the first contract of this primary entry. So I won't count this 4, but several traders took that 4. This too was a good intra-series scalp, fit all the rules, but it was during lunchtime, which I don't count. This trade here was a cautionary trade. Again, going against the large move beforehand makes it a more precarious that is, trade to take. On the exit of 2 opposite direction triangles, that was an entry at 30.75 with an exit here at the open of the candle for a loss of 5 ticks, or excuse me, I think 6 ticks. That should be 6 ticks, not 5. So that lost 6. I'll add 1 more tick off for the end of the day. And then after that, no other trades. These were weak twins, not to be taken. This was a trade inside the yellow. It didn't print an R, so when it doesn't print an R, it's not a valid trade for the rookie to take. So no trade taken here. A twin formation occurred here. The entry here, if you don't make money after 4 bars, that is the rule we're going to use for twins. You need to make money within 4 bars. If you don't, it's not worth staying in the twin. From open there to open there, that's a loss of 4 ticks. It went up as high as 6 ticks here, but we're looking for 8 ticks of profit on the twin. Here you had a scalp. This was really, I'm sorry, a sprint. This was really the first sprint right here. When the turn down of the smart line occurs and a triangle comes in, a colored triangle like this, a down triangle, that was really the sprint, but it was inside the yellow when it occurred, so it didn't print an S until the next bar over. But for traders that would take this, they can take the sprint here and just enter here, get up to the yellow, move the position to break even, and make the money, and protect yourself against the yellow having a bounce against you. So this trade, some of the traders would know to take this, others probably didn't. It moved so fast, it was a candle that moved so quickly, I don't think anybody was able to get into it. The next one was a sprint that I called. It went down and made as much as 6 ticks, came back up, and at the first arrow against you on the SSI, you should close sprint and scalp trades when either an arrow against you prints on the SSI or an aqua triangle. Either one of the two is a reason to close a sprint or a scalp. For that matter, a twin trade as well. Sprint, scalps, and twins, and bounces for that matter, all trades should be closed when you have an aqua triangle against you or you have an arrow on the SSI against you. So that was entered here, closed here. As you can see, prices dropped fairly quickly, so some people might have got a worse entry. And then here, prices open and went up, so it's open to open. And this trade might have been one that lost more like 2 or 3 ticks versus 1 tick. But I keep it open to open because in some cases the prices will go up and give you a better entry, and the prices here will go down and give you a better close. Here, this was a twin trade right here. From open up here, it made as much as 7 ticks, and then after 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, the close here, after 4 bars of it not making profits when you should close the twin, it made 5 ticks for those who took this twin. And then we have a twin trade here. This made 8 ticks of profit from the open price of the candle after the twin had formed. And 8 ticks from here to here was made. And then we had a primary entry at the end of the day that was taken here at the price of 30, which is the chase. As long as the chase price is no more than 2 points worse than the trigger, it's a valid trade to take. The entry here made its 8 ticks there, and then it was taken a break even here. Some might have taken the scalp right here, the first primary scalp, but that's not to be taken unless you've banked your eight ticks for sure. If it was taken, it was closed at the first opposite direction arrow, which means that that sprint would have lost, or that scalp, excuse me, would have lost about 4 ticks right here. So the day's profit is 19 ticks. If you take out of that the 10 tick runner that some traders didn't get into, it's still 9 ticks for the day. And actually got to remove 1 tick for that other trade, so that's really 18. It's really 8 to 18 ticks made today on the trades that have been endorsed in the room for 3 months, as well as the newest trades, which is the twin trade. As for bounce trades today, which is also another trade technique, I don't think we really had. Well, we did have a bounce probably right there. And we didn't really have any trades today that were bounces right on the yellow price. It wasn't a day of bounces today. This here was a bounce off the yellow, but it wasn't a big enough swing to make it valid. This was a bounce off the yellow, but you already had a position in the market. Not worth taking another position. And then this price here was about a tick off the yellow, very close to it. This here was a tick off the yellow. That bounce actually went up and made money if somebody took that right off. Matter of fact, that trade actually was a bounce probably, because the yellow price was right there before that candle closed and the yellow dropped. So that was actually a bounce trade, but it was during lunchtime. And it was a bounce trade on the inside of a trade. We're looking for bounces that if you're in a short, you're bouncing down. If you're in a long, you're bouncing up. So then that trade is a reverse bounce, which is not a trade we're taking. Other than that, there are no other bounces where you have enough of a swing in price of 2 points. This one here was close at 230. This was actually 2 points on that bounce. This was a 2-point distance. So that was a lose and bounce right there. That bounce loses 6 ticks. So I'm going to add 6 ticks negative there for the bounce. And that would be it. So we're going to take 6 ticks off here, because we do have a bounce trade that was valid. Just barely, but let me make sure one more thing though on that bounce, everybody, that I'm doing the trade in the room for here. You know what, guys, you were never, well, we're going to call that a valid bounce because it was under. Oh, you know what? It wasn't oversold yet. It wasn't oversold. The bounce trade, the rules are you want to, when you take a short, you've got to be not sold, overbought. You got to be overbought on a bounce. In this case, you weren't overbought. So this wasn't a valid bounce. So that's 8 to 18 ticks today made on all the trades that set up. Now there are two trades, which are the twins and the bounces, and those trades are trades which a lot of the room are taking, but some aren't fully taken yet because the rules haven't come out. So if you took out today the twin trades and you left the other ones, that's positive 8, positive 5, that's 13, minus 4, that's positive 9. And that's it for the day for bounce trades or twin trades, positive 9. Yeah, positive 9. That's 9 ticks you take off of the daily profit. That means today would have been either a negative 1 tick or a positive 9 ticks. So either a break-even day or a slightly profitable day. This is the video so far on the ES. I'll do the remaining video on the Euro in a few minutes. I'll come right back and do the video in a moment. Okay, this is now the second half of the video for the Euro. It's already 16 minutes into this video, so this will be very quick. The second part of this video will be 4 minutes into the Euro for the day. We take profits from the Euro from 2 a.m. all the way through until 12 p.m. From 2 a.m. we had a trade here on a sprint. We had news releases though coming out at 3 o'clock in the morning and at 3:30. So the entry on the sprint here would be an exit before the 3 o'clock news event, which would be an exit at the open of this candle right here. Now, did it make the 20 pips? We're looking for 20 pips on the Euro sprint. 21.14 approximately. Should be down to 21.20. That is 96 or 94, which it didn't make. So you would have exited here before the news event at 3 o'clock in the morning, which was the Euro flash. There was quite a lot of news at 3 o'clock, then at 3:30 and 4. So the Euro had important things at 3 a.m. that came out. So you move your position to break even when you're on a medium impact news release. Move your position to break even if you're in profit. On a high impact, take out the position and close it when in profit or in loss. Now, if you have 50 pips or more of room between the news event itself and a large impact news release, then you can stay in it and let it run. But it's best to respect news. So here, this trade is a break-even trade. I'm not going to count that. Then this trade came here long at 3:20 in the morning, but you've got the 3:30, very important German flash manufacturing release. Don't take a trade unless you have at least 30 minutes pre-market to make profit. So this is not a valid long. And then you had a short here at 3:55, but you have the 4 o'clock German manufacturing and all that news coming out of 4 o'clock. Don't take a short there. The market gets very choppy with news. As you can see here, they're covering longs, covering shorts, covering longs there and covering shorts here, okay? And going forward, there is no other news really contend with until Bernanke at 8:45. And we're talking about news that affects the U.S. dollar. The Canadian releases at 8:30 don't really do too much to affect the U.S. dollar. So we have a sprint here at 5:25. Entry here goes down and makes 19 points right here, 19 pips. But we're looking for 20, so it didn't make the 19. It didn't make the 20. So we exited at the first aqua triangle, which is right here. And actually the rules for sprints and scalps are actually to exit the first opposite direction arrow. The first arrow that comes up on the SSI is when you should exit it. So actually the sprint here, now this is a new rule we're using for the SSI, using the arrows on the SSI. When the first arrow goes against your sprint or scalp position or the twin or bounce trade, which was in the earlier part of this video, you are then to exit. So this exit here would have actually added another 7 or 8 pips to the trade, but I'll just leave it at positive 3 to keep things simple right now. And then another scalp sprint came in here, but this was 5 minutes before Bernanke talking. Don't take that trade. This was a long here within 30 minutes of Bernanke talking. It's best not to take that trade. We want to wait 30 minutes from Bernanke. We want to wait at least 30 minutes by the time Bernanke talks. Now this trade was at 9:20 in the morning. It's questionable whether that should be taken or not. If it was taken, it loses 25 points, which is the stop loss. But at 9:15 in the morning, there wasn't anybody taking trades because the U.S. market was going to open at 9:30, and with Bernanke talking, Traders were staying out of these trades for about an hour this morning. So this is so cutting it close to when he is still talking and affects the market. It wouldn't be a recommended trade to take. This trade here was well past him talking. This was now an hour and 20 minutes past him talking. A very much safer trade to take. And this trade makes 20 pips on the first half of the position, and the second half is closed at 12 o'clock. We stopped taking any new trades at 12, and you exit trades either at 12 o'clock or you can exit them later in the day if you want to stay in the room when you have a cross of the stop loss line here, or when you have another rule for exit is when you have two aqua triangles within 10 bars of each other, which this one was almost at. But I suggest people exit their trades right around noon because things tend to go sideways on the euro right after about 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And as you can see here, they pretty much went sideways. You can a lot of times get a nice push until about 12:15, which this was about 12:25. But after that, it just goes sideways and doesn't do very much of anything. It produced a long here, but you can see it's done nothing for the last 4 hours. So today's profit on the euro is 43 pips on the positions I just went over. Thanks very much. Look forward to seeing you in the room. Please contact me if you have any questions at info@es- it's a minus sign, runner.com. And you can go to the website at www.runnertrading.com. Thanks very much.